I know it's a big day for you, and I do want to talk about your retirement in a second. But first, I want to get your thoughts on this New York Times story. They're reporting that the FBI, when it raided the offices of President Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen, they were looking for information about the Access Hollywood tape and possibly attempts by Cohen to suppress damaging information about Mr. Trump. I know after the Access Hollywood tape came out in October 2016, Mr. Trump was asked not to appear at an event for you. Now it's back in the news in a major way. This must bother you. Access Hollywood, Stormy Daniels, Karen McDougal. At a certain point, it must be embarrassing.
Well, look, I didn't even read the article. I mean, I'm obviously familiar with what you're talking about. So we're pretty focused on just getting our work done here. And so this is something that I'll let you guys speculate about. Right now, I'm busy trying to get things done in Congress. We've got a big agenda here. And so that's kind of where my focus is. And I don't really have much punditry to offer you on this. And look, I just think the way the president ought to handle this is compartmentalize it and focus on doing your job. We've got issues with Syria. We've got a balanced budget amendment we're passing this week. We've got a lot to do, and that's what I'm focused on. Well,
let's talk about your retirement. Obviously, a big announcement. I know you said you want to spend more time with your wife and kids. Obviously, very understandable. You've said things to me like that privately as well. I do want to get your reaction, however, to some other speculation out there. Listen to the former Republican governor of New Jersey talking today about your decision. He said, quote, it is a big indicator that the speaker doesn't think he'd be speaker anymore. If you're a betting person, you're betting on the Democrats for the House in the fall, unquote. Now, again, I know family played a huge part in this decision, but isn't Governor Christie correct that the odds are that you wouldn't be speaker anymore come January?
No, actually, I really don't believe that. I think that's just not true because we have an excellent track record to run on. Look at what the economy is doing. Look at wages, look at bonuses, look at tax reform, look at the regulatory relief. We just rebuilt the military. That's actually taking place. We've actually passed an agenda into law. We are one of these crazy people that actually said what we would do while we campaigned, won the election. Now we're doing it, and it's making a positive difference in people's lives. So I really think we're going to have a very good story to tell. So I'm confident we can keep this majority. It's one of the reasons why I was comfortable making this decision, actually, Jake. You know, in a funny way, I decided to do this. Number one, as you know, my kids are now teenagers. They've only known me as a weekend dad because they were born after I was elected to Congress. So that's a personal decision, but I was able to make that personal decision because I feel like we have put our majority in a good place because we have gotten a lot done. It's making a big difference in people's lives. So I'm confident I'm going to be able to hand this gavel over to another Republican speaker. And because of that list of accomplishments, I actually feel content and confident. Therefore, I feel like I can do what I've always wanted to do, which was to be a full-time dad with my wife for at least part of my children's upbringing, because if I do another term, that's really all they will ever know me at home is a weekend dad, and that's just something I just can't live with.
There are also a lot of Republicans on Capitol Hill speculating that President Trump hasn't exactly made your life as Speaker any easier, even though he obviously signs your bills as a Republican president would. I do know that you've also had concerns, sometimes you voice them, about some of the ways President Trump has conducted himself. Take a listen to Republican Senator John Thune. He's a member of the Senate leadership, discussing your relationship with President Trump.
That's been a little bit of a difficult marriage from the beginning. They're very different in terms of temperament and character.
Very different in terms of temperament and character. And I want to ask you, because you're talking a lot about your kids today, what do you tell your children when they ask you about the president's temperament and character?
They don't really ask me about the president's temperament and character. We try not to talk about these things. I try to spend my time talking about what's going on in their lives. But to get to the point you're asking me, yeah, we're very different people. I'm from the upper Midwest. I'm not from New York. We're from a different generation. So we definitely have different styles. But what we learned after we got to know each other, because we didn't know each other at all in the campaign. And yeah, we had we had a lot of friction in our relationship. What we learned is we have a common agenda that we agree on, and we want to get it done, and we know it's going to make a big difference in people's lives. And that's what we are elected to do. He got elected president. I got elected as speaker. I think it's our job on behalf of the people we represent, the people of this nation, to focus on their problems, get things done, make a big difference, and that's what we're doing, and that's what I'm proud about.
So I understand what you're saying. Obviously, it's more than stylistic, though. I mean, it has to do with you both have very different visions of the Republican Party. I know you can come together on issues like repealing and replacing Obamacare or tax cuts, but in terms of the message of the Republican Party, you disagree. And that has the deal you've made to try to get these things done for the American people has subjected you to criticism. Ron Brownstein wrote today, quote, Paul Ryan chose to tolerate both Trump's personal excesses and his racially polarizing words and deeds as the price worth paying to advance Ryan's own top priorities, cutting spending, regulations, and above all taxes. The result was that Ryan, more than any other prominent Republican, personified the devil's bargain the GOP has signed with Trump. What's your response when you hear criticisms like that?
Yeah, look, I've known Ron for 25 years. I don't see getting things done for the country, keeping your promises, making a difference, a devil's bargain. Look, we have separation of powers. We have 3 separate co-equal branches of government. We have many different kinds of Republicans. The secret to success, from what I see, is getting all these different kinds of Republicans to form a coalition government that can actually deliver. That's what we have right now. I'm grateful for the president to win the election, to give us this chance and opportunity to make a big difference in people's lives. So I'm really proud of the accomplishments we have here. And so I don't see this as some Faustian bargain, devil's bargain, or whatever it is you call it. I see it as the country said, go fix these problems. You guys get the majority in the House, you get the majority in the Senate. Here's the presidency. Now go do something with it. That's what we're doing. That's not devil's bargain. That's actually doing what the people in this country asked us to do and keeping our word, and I'm very proud of that fact.
So if a year ago, 2 years ago, somebody asked me what are the 2 most important things to Paul Ryan, I would have said tax cuts and
tax reform.
Tax cuts, tax reform, okay, and entitlement reform, or changing the way the social safety net program, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid exist so that they will exist in future generations. One of them you've done. The other one you have not. The Congressional Budget Office, as you know, this week came out with a report projecting $1 trillion deficits will start in 2020 if nothing's done. And by 2028, CBO expects that deficit to top $1.5 trillion. Now, the CBO says this is largely, not entirely, but largely because of the tax cuts. Take a listen to Republican Senator Bob Corker. He said, quote, this Congress and this administration likely will go down as one of the most fiscally irresponsible administrations and Congresses that we've had. Do you disagree with Senator Corker?
I do disagree with that. If you take a look at the new projections, which are similar to other projections we've seen from CBO for many, many years, I used to authorize that agency as the budget chair. We always knew we were going to have pressure on deficits hitting $1 trillion because of baby boomers retiring and mandatory spending, which is entitlements, which is 2/3 of our budget. If you take a look at their forecast over the next 10 years, discretionary spending rises about $300 billion. Tax revenues still increase. Entitlement spending increases $2 trillion over the next 10 years. So this is the issue. That has always been the issue when it comes to debt and deficits in the future. And yeah, that is one of the things that I've talked about forever. And Jake, I got to tell you, I'm particularly proud of the fact that the House, ever since I was budget chairman to this term of Congress, has passed budgets that not only balance the budget but pay off the debt. Last year, we passed out of the House. Now, it didn't go into law, and that's one of my regrets. But we passed out of the House the single biggest entitlement reform bill Congress has ever considered. It would have lowered health care premiums. It would have shaved trillions of dollars off of our long-term debt. And unfortunately, that bill did not pass the Senate. But it did pass the House. I'm proud of that fact. So yeah, we got a lot of work to do. But I do really feel that I've helped contribute to advancing this cause of dealing with entitlements in a serious way. And here's the irony of it all. I really think we can make these entitlements better. I think these entitlement programs, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, they can work better for future seniors, and we can get this debt under control. But we have to reform these programs. We have not had bipartisan consensus on how to do that. We were able to get a bill with a party line vote only out of the House to do it just this year. And I wish we could have passed that into law because I thought it would have made a great difference. But nevertheless, I'm proud of the fact that we've advanced these issues. These issues aren't going away, and I think we are closer to a consensus than where we were just a couple of years ago when we started talking about these issues.
I have 2 more questions, and then I know you have to go. One is, maybe it's a little early for you to be retrospective and looking back at your career in Congress, but can you think of what your best moment in Congress was and what your worst moment was?
Worst moment, losing the majority in 2006 was a pretty ugly time when we lost that majority. Losing the 2012 election was a pretty tough moment for me. I was on the ticket with Mitt, as you know. Those were tough moments. I think getting tax reform done was one of the best moments. That's something I've been working on for over 20 years. Ever since I worked for Jack Kemp, I've been working on tax reform. I think it's critical to laying a strong foundation of economic growth. I think there are a lot of things in this tax bill that help advance our poverty fighting agenda, like enterprise zones, social impact bonds. There's a lot of things here that a lot of Americans don't even know about yet that I'm really proud about. And I'm excited about advancing some issues I really care about. And that's really what I'm most proud about.
And lastly, I find it hard to believe that January will be the last time you're on the political scene. I find it hard to believe that you won't run for Senate or governor or president someday. You're shaking your head. You don't think there's no chance you're going to re-enter politics down the road?
Not while my kids are growing up, and obviously not in the near future. I really don't see that. I really thought when I took this job, Jake, that this is probably the last elected office I would have. I'm not going to run for president. You know, that's not my plan. I'm not going to do that. I really want to spend time doing the things that I've just discussed doing. I'm always going to advocate for the causes I have. But right now, the last thing I'm thinking about is running for something.
Well, I believe that, but we'll see. I'm gonna believe that we'll see, because your kids are teenagers. They're going to be out of the house soon enough. That's why you're going home, right? All right.
No plans to run for anything, and I really don't think I'll change my mind. But thanks, Jake. Appreciate it.
Okay. House Speaker Paul Ryan.